Okay, we're doing a 2015 Ford 6.7 Powerstroke. This is going to cover your 2011 to 2019 Powerstroke installation guide. Here's our new powder-coated, black powder-coated frame mount bracket coming out 1st of June. And then we're going to find a spot to mount this on this truck here. We got a few different options. You got some holes here that'll line up with the bracket right there. And you can mount it this way, run your hoses up and over back to the filter there. I've had guys mount it with bigger bolts going through here, because those line up with it as well. And that way you can kind of tuck it either up there or in this direction. These two bolt holes line up on the back side if you have your running boards on. These two bolt holes line up with it, and so you can mount it like that, or like this, or like this right here. If you don't have mud flaps on, you're gonna get a little bit of mud and rocks flinging at it, but this is aircraft aluminum, so you're not gonna hurt the housing or the fittings. Another spot I've seen people put it is here, and it kind of tucks it up under the way a little bit there, and then you just tilt it down to drain it like we do on the other one. Or I've seen people bolt right through here. See if those, you see those holes line up right there? And then they've just mounted just like that too, right here, because you're not much below the running boards anyway. You can leave it straight out if you want. You can leave it straight out if you want. Like I said, just drop it down to drop the housing out, or to drop the filter element out. The other options that you can do are, you can come down here. This requires you to buy a little bit of extra hose. These two bolts right here line right up with the bracket as well. You can keep it this direction and then bend it down to drain it, or you can leave it in this direction. A little bit farther down than that, you've got these two bolts here, the bolt holes that line up right here, and you can mount it this direction as well. This is going to require an extra 8 feet of hose probably though to come this far. An extra 4 feet on this one, and then just everything we send you for everything that I showed you that way. We're going to mount this using a self-threading bolt, and just one, because all this stuff here that's going to keep it from being able to let it move back and forth on the bolt. The hole's already the right size for a 5/16 self-threading bolt. I like to use a little tap magic on there because you are essentially tapping the frame. We're going to go this pre-existing hole in the frame right here. Our self-threading bolt will thread through it, and this will mount just perfectly right here. All the lines will fit. Super easy. That one bolt will hold it. 200 inch-pounds. I'm gonna do lower one right here. Get your lower bolt started there. You can do your upper. About right there. And then we're gonna torque these to 200 inch-pounds as well. And you're mounted. 17 millimeter here on your drain plug. Went a little excessive there on the oil filter tightness. So take note here, this is not your oil pressure sensor. This is either an oil sending or an oil temperature. Your oil pressure sensor is on the front of the housing on this year model. That's your oil pressure sensor there on the front, and that's where we're going to put the tee off some pressure to go to this bypass filter. If you have a year model where both sensors are right here, this one's on the left, the other one's on the right here, then that would be your oil pressure sensor. There won't be on the front one on the front on those year truck. So this is where you would tee off if you have two pressure sensors facing rear. Okay, so you're gonna pull your sensor harness off, push the button in, pull it off, and this is how you're gonna verify that you have the oil pressure sensor. It's a 1-wire sensor on these year of trucks. This side over here is a 2-wire sensor. And so the 1-wire sensor is your oil pressure sensor that you want. It's a 13/16 wrench I'm going to use. Maybe. I'm going to pull this off.
Tea systems generally come in a bag with all the parts needed for the tea installed. And now I've seen the area where I need to put this, so here's your tea. Starts with the T, TR 2025. My hand shoes. There you go. Take it out of its bag, and this piece goes directly into the oil filter housing where this came out. And now if you'll notice, if we line this up here,
If you put this tea in here, you're not going to have enough room to put the sensor on the opposite side of it. It's too long. See? So we know that our sensors are going to have to go in this center branch, more than likely facing this direction. And that means that we only have one other option over here.
we can either use a 90-degree fitting, or we can use a straight. Now, we know how that's going to look in there is like this. And if you put the straight in there, then you're not going to be able to hook your hose up because there's a piece right here. So in this case, we use the 90, and you want to put this together in steps, one piece, then the other piece, then the other piece. But more than likely we'll either have the 90 face in this direction or this direction, but you can also face it this direction or any direction you want. So this is what this will look like up here.
Just like this. See, now you can hook your hose fitting up right down here. Hook your hose up right there. After this is all screwed together and installed, this leaves you enough room for your sensor wire to come out to here and plug in, or have your dual sensors in the facing rear. You can do the same thing. This would go here, face that down or up. You can use the 90 and face the 90 this way, hook the hose fitting onto it, go up into the frame rail right here and down and then back out. Or in this case, we generally would use the straight so that it's already pointing towards the back of the truck where it's going. So if your oil pressure sensor was here, that's facing rear, hose fitting comes in here, ties onto that piece right there.
So for this truck, we're going to use our TR 2025. Our oil pressure sensor is going to go in the center branch, and then we're going to use our AN 0604 MP90 here to face down. So this way, that's basically what you're going to be putting together there. And then our hose fitting, AN 0606 FJ, is going to go come right onto this piece right here and tie onto that 90. And then the hose will come out here. Throw a little thread sealant on the male threads that are going to go into the filter housing. You want to make sure you don't use, if you're using Teflon tape, you don't want to use too much Teflon tape, just 2 or 3 wraps at the very most. You don't want to have too much thread sealant for 2 reasons. One, this sensor relies on the ground to go through here. That's why this is raw aluminum and everything else is black anodized. The black anodized, we found out, was isolating the ground and giving you a false reading. So we changed that, went to a raw aluminum tee so that the second wire, that's the first wire, second wire is the ground through this into the oil filter housing. Second reason is if you put too much Teflon tape in there and it starts squeezing all into the housing, then when you turn your truck on, it pushes the Teflon tape up into the tee and blocks the hole on the sensor. It's all packed with Teflon tape or any other debris. This won't read properly.
Move this wire holder here just out of the way a little bit so we can spin our tee in. Spin our tee in here. Get in here with my little BB wrench. Spin this about right there. Now we're going to take our 90, some thread sealant, and we're going to bend that thing out of our way just a little bit more. Put that back on there. Now we put our 90 in. It's a little tight up in here, so it's kind of tricky to get that 90 started.
some thread sealant on this, because this is quarter NPT. It's thread pit. It's pitched thread. We got a 13/16 socket. Tighten our pressure sensor to 122 inch-pounds. So that's what we do on our tapered fittings to aluminum. Okay. Wiring harness back on. 7-foot and 4-foot pieces of hose. I just cut the 4-foot piece off so I can see where we're gonna run here. Go right through this hole all the way through the frame. You can come down here. This will tie into this side right there, and this will tie into our 90-degree fittings right here. So we're going to take our AN0606FJ, that's the hose fitting that hooks onto the T, and we'll put this AN0604 MS90 into the housing on the other side. Okay, we're going to do our 0606FJ first, the hose fitting, 6AN female. Put the socket in the vise. Put the hose to the back side of the female threads. Lock it in the vise. A little bit of fresh oil. Start by hand. Make sure your hose doesn't twist or push down out of the socket as you're threading in by hand. Go as far as you can. And you can grab your wrench. Go the rest of the way down until fitting touches the socket. Right there. And your other side, AN0604 MS90, go into the housing. Put your socket in the vise. Push the hose into the socket. Make sure it's hitting the back side of the female threads. And we are there. A little bit of oil. Hold it with one hand so it doesn't move and thread the other end in by hand. Make sure you don't cross the threads. That's why I always say start it in by hand first. Go as far as you can. Take your wrench, go till the fitting touches the socket. There. Now we have our pressure line and we can put it in. Okay, we're gonna go back through this hole in the frame here, and down side of here. Get right here onto our 6AN 90-degree elbow. The hose fitting on there. And I like to back off a little bit and then go back on with these hose fittings so they seat nicely. Just cinched. The hose from your pressure sensor T, and we're going to run a little thread sealant on it. And we're going to run it through here to your in port of bypass filter. Spin it in by hand. Tighten this down, 122 inch-pounds. So now we're going to make up our return hose. So we're going to get our other filter fitting, which is AN0604 MS90. And then this is our return port system. And it comes with the filler cap and an AN0602 MS90. One side of the hose will get 02, one side will get the 04. Do the 02 side first. Put the socket in the vise. Push the hose into the socket. Make sure it's all the way to the back side of the female threads. Dip your fitting in a little bit of fresh oil. Turn it in by hand, making sure the hose doesn't twist or push out of the socket. Turn it until the fitting touches the socket. There. 04 MS90. Socket in the vise. Push the hose into the socket. Make sure it's touching the back side of the female threads. Dip your fitting in some fresh oil. Turn it in by hand, making sure that fitting doesn't push the hose out of the socket or twist the hose. Twist the fitting down until fitting meets the socket. There. Now you've got your return hose, fill cap, filter housing. Put some thread sealant on, and we're going to, with our 19 millimeter crow's foot, to 122 inch-pounds. Then we're going to twist this up here, thread it through here. Yes. Send up towards the engine compartment here. So
if you so choose, this is the fitting oil pan adapter for your oil pan. And you would take the hose from your return side of the line and just run it right here. Just need two little short hoses with a 90-degree fitting. Like this. That would go to your return hose that would go right up here and over to your housing. Two short little hoses, and you can return to the oil pan instead. Place the dowdy ring on the oil pan plug here. 17 millimeter. Use genuine OEM filters. Tie this up a little bit so we don't get so much rubbing. Tie these two together here where the wiring harness is mounted. Torque this to 35 foot-pounds. Now to go up top. Okay, here's our line we pulled up from the bottom. Runs right over the top of that and just right to there perfectly. Remove your fill cap, install your Insane Diesel Dream Oil Filter fill cap, put a little thread sealant on, thread this right onto here. Okay, since this is a plastic fill neck, I'm gonna torque to 122 inch-pounds, but with a little help from my finger here. Okay, let's fill it up. Capacity is 13 quarts, so we're gonna put 10 quarts first because that's what the jug holds. Then we'll put another 3, turn it on, wait for all the air out of the get out of the lines, and then top off with whatever extra we need. Lorenzo's 5W40 with TS2 guard. Okay, starting up.
Check for leaks. No leak.
So we put in 13 quarts because that's what the system holds. We ran the engine until all the bubbles were out of the line, and now we've let it shut off, sit for a minute. We've added a quart and a half. We are right to the top of the full line.